Hi and welcome to another edition of the Aussie Ideas Man. I don't want to take too much time. I'm going to do what I call a double troll. I'll start with Aptera Owners Club and talk about them for a little bit, and then I'll move on to the last Aptera Motors, monthly update. But I think that's a bit of a cop-out if you call it a monthly update. They just did a year in review instead. In any case, I'll tag it onto the end, and I have to not do a lot. I'll cut out a lot of things I'd like to say and just put in what I think might be enough for you to swallow for one day.
Hello everyone, it's Steve with Aptera Motor Club. A few days ago, Aptera and Steve Fambro were on a local news station, Fox 32 in Chicago. Now, Fox 32 in Chicago is unfortunately one of the weakest owned Fox stations. They don't have very good viewership, and in the Chicago market, they actually trail the CW, which is not great. But it's TV, and I think Aptera should go after whatever exposure they can get. I will say that this interview was a little painful to watch, but let's watch it together and kind of comment. Not too much real news or anything new for those of us that have been following Aptera, but it's always good to see Aptera getting some exposure. So, maybe there's a few thousand people that saw Aptera for the first time in the Chicago area because of this newscast, but let's watch it.
Welcome back.
Okay, let me start with just saying I've taken my picture out of this. I don't need to be seen all the way through, and it's easier to edit when I'm not cutting out my lips moving. In any case, I'd like to start on a positive note. It's such a good thing that the cretin has now got something about Aptera to report on. There have been too many things, such as strange countries down in South America that are using a lot of, I don't know what you'd say, grid solar or not grid solar. I'm lost for words. Using green energy. That's what it is. They're using green energy. And, well, that's because he's got nothing else to say. Then there was the one that was all about a politician retiring. I think that was pretty well off the beaten track when it comes to reporting on Aptera. He's been hard up for things lately, and my poor memory now at age 70 is not remembering all the silly things that he's come up with. But in either case, I think if you look through his past videos, you'll just be able to pick out a large percentage of them being off the topic of Aptera. But he's just making money for himself because YouTube pay him due to the fact that he has a large readership or viewership. In any case, I will be just going kind on him. I'll start the year with a positive kudos for having something relevant to report on.
Everyone, 922, you're looking at an electric vehicle. They have exploded in popularity in recent years, but a new type of eco-friendly vehicle is in the works. Aptera says it's working on a solar-powered car that wouldn't require a lot of charging every day. Very interesting, right? So joining us now to talk more about this is the CEO, Steve Fambro. Good morning to you, Steve. To have you on this morning.
Hey, good morning, and it's nice to join you.
Okay, so solar cars. I don't know too much about these. Tell me, what makes them different than the EVs that we're used to seeing?
Well, it starts at the top, the very reason our company exists, and that's to make every journey powered by the sun. So when you have that as a belief from the senior management on down, then you end up designing products that are lightweight and efficient and able to be solar powered. You couldn't make a regular electric vehicle solar powered because they're too heavy and they're too inefficient.
Okay, I'm looking at them. It's such an interesting concept. Okay.
Now, you can't make even a lightweight EV solar powered because it's still in the realm of too heavy. You might be able to solar power things like recumbent bicycles, but once you start getting into the weights over probably half the weight of Aptera, and you are then too heavy. It might eke out a few more miles than other EVs, but it's just too much expense for too little return. But we'll wait and see. We don't have the facts, we only have his word, and his word to me is worthless.
What's interesting is they're using the video from Jerry Rig Everything's visit to Aptera.
Let's get to these two things. Tell me how it works, how does it charge, and the cost. If you can give me those answers in those in that direction.
Well, You plug it in if you want, like a normal electric vehicle, but most people will be able to charge up to 40 miles a day just from parking it in the sun. So that's about the average commute of most Americans. So most Americans just won't have to plug it in at all. But you can plug it in like a normal car. You'll be able to go to the Tesla supercharger or any other regular EV charging station.
Okay, so
there's
go
a
ahead.
wide range of prices, and the most optioned up one is around $50,000. The most popular, with all the roughly 40,000 or so pre-orders that we have, I think is optioned around $38,000.
Wow. Okay.
Now, there's been comments that are arguing whether the $38,000 for the launch edition is a price increase, and it is. On the website, it says $33,200, so there's almost $5,000 jump there. And people are arguing that, well, yeah, maybe you can option up the launch edition to $38,000, but you can't, because when they brought out the launch edition, they were saying no options. They were saying it is Sandy Munro's edict that you bring out an edition that you don't have to worry about putting this and that on through the production line. It's just the same thing that goes in one end, comes out the other. Nothing different. And so, initially he talks about the top line and you can option it up. But when he talks about the launch edition, it's the price for the launch edition without any options. I'll just make that clear. The somewhat unclear in his mind these days in Bruce Nelson has been arguing in the comments that the price has not changed. Well, Bruce, the price has changed. The launch edition, which can't be optioned up, is $38,000 according to Steve Fambro.
Okay, I think she interrupted him, and it kind of ruined Steve's train of thought, because he was gonna give the full range. I think like it goes up to 50,000, but it starts at like $26,000, and he should have given the low end $26,000, but he gave the most popular option, which is like 38,000. Now this makes me think that Aptera is still kind of thinking that price range is possible, and
So even the cretin is dumb enough to think that there has been no nearly $5,000 price increase. He's not too quick on his feet when it comes to thinking.
I think with the battery prices going down lately, and the prices of some commodities for sourcing these things coming down a little bit, maybe a huge price hike is not in the works, and maybe they will be able to stay close to the original price that they talked about back about 3 years ago. So hoping that's the case, and it sounds like Steve is still quoting those prices, and so there haven't been any like clear shifts to increase the price yet. So that's good news.
Okay, so let's talk about the drawbacks, because we have to have both sides here. I'm told they can include the cost, the limited range, the battery life, and in some cases, decreased performance has been a complaint overall.
Okay, so she's obviously knows nothing about the Aptera, and it's just talking about EVs in general. She's worried about, people are always talking about how like there's range problems with EVs. EVs are more expensive. You can have performance degradation, that kind of stuff. These are all things that the Aptera is completely the opposite of. Like, Aptera is fairly affordable for an EV if they stick to their current pricing. It has like ridiculous range. Like if they ever build that 1,000-mile Aptera, that'll be just crazy. And the performance is remarkably good because it's so light.
So my question to you is, why buy one of these? Is it just about reducing the carbon footprint? And if you live in a city like Chicago, you don't get a lot of sunshine. How effective are they for you?
Well, this vehicle, the one you're looking at right now, the launch edition,
The one she was looking at right now was the beta. It wasn't the launch edition. So something's going on funny with this newsreel.
is going to have about 400 miles of range. So 400 miles is an awful lot of range for an electric vehicle. And so most people aren't going to be worried about, range anxiety or things like that.
The one that she's looking at now is the Alpha. So again, no launch edition.
And even in places like Chicago, over the year, you might not get 11 or 12,000 miles charged. You might get 7 or 6,000 miles charged. That's still a lot of free miles. So it's going to be less time at the gas station, less dependent on oil and energy from places around the world that we don't like. And
this is the part that I wanted to troll this video on the most. That he talks about getting oil from places around the world that you don't like. Now, I've been called a hater a lot, and it's just laughable to me because, I don't hate anything in this world. There really isn't anything that I can say I have feelings of hate for, and in particular countries. I don't hate countries. I recognise that some countries are better than others, and I pity those that aren't as well off as the first world countries. I pity second and third world countries. But I don't hate them, and I don't hate anybody in them. I just wonder why people can turn around and just say, we will not get oil from countries that we don't like. And I know it's not the same as hate, but not liking countries is a bit odd. We should like every country. We should just pity those that aren't as fortunate as we are. That's all. We should feel empathy for them, but not a dislike for them. This to me just shows me a little bit of a calibre of the people behind the company. If they can turn around and just say, we don't want to get oil from people we don't like. In the comments, I've actually seen that the place that America gets oil from is Canada. So does he not like Canada? I don't know. But it's the main reason. I don't think there's much else I can comment on other than to say that we shouldn't be doing business with people who don't like any country.
More about keeping everything local in this country.
So when
I think he was catering a little bit to the.
Now, hang on a sec. He just finished saying, keep everything local in the country. Have a look at where just about everything that's on an Aptera comes from, and you'll find that it's not local. You got motors from Slovenia. You've got the body shell from Italy. You've got windscreens that are coming over from overseas. I don't know where they're making them. I think rumour was Spain or something. In any case, not from here. You've got wiring harnesses from Japan. You've got batteries from some Asian country, whether it's the South Korean country they just contracted with or from China or somewhere. But yes, the amount of content in Aptera is more international than local. So, he just waffles on, but when you analyse what he says, there's no truth behind his nonsense.
can people start actually seeing these solar powered cars on the roads, and when do you think people will start buying them?
We start production later this year.
Okay, so there's two things that we gathered from this interview from Steve Ambrose's answers.
It's pretty definite. We start production later this year. Or I should say, they do. I'm certainly not a part of it. Start production later this year. Of course, that's misleading in and of itself because he'll say production is one of the test mules, those 16 PIs, production intents, or they've given it another name. That PI has some other name. But in either case, they are production intents, and it's not really something you can say is starting production. A production vehicle is something that can roll off the production line and be sold to a customer. And I'll bet my house that they don't have that sort of production anytime this year because that one has to go through too many hoops and jumps to get to becoming a saleable product. There's all sorts of things. They have to go through those 16 test mules, the production intent vehicles. They have to then get the whole production line up and running properly. They have to then have all the government tests and everything like that, all the requirements to be able to register a car for use. There is no point in selling these things if they're for use on people's private property only. They have to be road legal. So this we start production later this year is a furphy. And in fact, they've been promising this starting production later in 2021, 2022, 2023. So there's 3 times that he said this, and this is the 4th time. It's about time people stop believing in his nonsense.
One, there's no definite price increase still in the works. I don't think we're gonna get really final pricing until they actually start delivering.
He didn't pick up on the definite nearly $5,000 that Fambro had mentioned. He's got too much space between his ears.
Fox News could have presented this a lot better by having the person read up a little bit. And
News for you, cretin. You haven't done a great job yourself. Now for the second one, just tagging it onto the end of the cretin's more positive report on something to do with Aptera for once. Now this one, I'll take a different approach. And when I say different, I mean back to the same old trolling. No positive remarks.
Today, we're honored to announce our launch edition vehicle.
Cutting the production tooling for Aptera's 6 main body structures with CPC Group and their tooling facility in Modena, Italy.
None of these things were a December update. By going over what they did all year, they've just opted out of giving any update for December.
The new VCU now.
Okay, so I am going to do something different here. First of all, I'm going to say when people go to that meeting on about the 27th of January or something, I want them to find out if this guy is still working for them. That'll be interesting.
Is a launch mode.
Also find out if this guy is still working for them. If he ever did.
We're excited to share that we're using OpenPilot as our autonomous system. With DC
I know Chris McCannon still works for them, so don't worry about that one.
fast charging, with access to the supercharger network.
Led us to Pininfarina's world-famous wind tunnel to validate the aerodynamic efficiency of our cutting-edge vehicle.
So who got the validation? Nobody we know of. If they got any information, we don't even know whether it was validation or not. They're dead silent on it. That's worthless.
Solar Summer's underway, and right now we're at Huntington Beach at the U.S. Open of Surfing.
Save the world.
The world needs.
I know Audrey's still working for them.
I don't have to put on any gas money.
And sourcing equipment for solar.
So is she. Don't know whether she's still wearing her painting pants.
Solar and battery manufacturing, which will take place here in San Diego, California.
Here in San Diego, our solar team has been building production-intent solar panels.
I can never stop it in the right spot. Just want to know if this guy's still working for them too. Find out how many people are actually on the books in January 27.
Here in San Diego, our solar team has been building production-intent solar panels.
Have they? Is this the team that shut up shop at the Vista plant and have not made one since? I think that was very early in the year. So why would you be saying as an update that the team's making panels when you know they've stopped and stopped long ago?
This is actually the two dies that produce our hood parts, and they're still warm, even though they were producing parts yesterday.
Simplicity.
This is a very recent employee. Find out if he's still with them.
Drives user experience.
And, whoops, and that one.
We want to make each task as efficient as possible.
I think Quincy's still with them. Anybody with a strange voice like Audra and Quincy are there just to look attractive.
Gearing up to assemble the entire body in carbon, or BINC as we like to call it, with the goal of having the first of many production-intent vehicles completed over the next few months.
Okay, many production-intent vehicles completed over the next 2 months. Next few months. I think those next few months have already passed. No production-intent vehicles yet. But looking forward to the next few months again, and they'd better be showing up.
We're excited to tell you that our biggest and longest lead body part, the tub, has been completed at the CPC factory. This is one of the largest carbon fiber SMC parts ever, and it's a huge accomplishment by the CPC group. The die to produce this consists of over 100 metric tons of hardened steel. And Steve is in Italy right now checking up on CPC's progress.
From Modena, I'm here with Thomas Vecchi. He's the general manager of CPC, and we're sitting in the first pressing of the tub of...
That guy's knees are practically in his ribs. He doesn't look comfortable at all.
The new Aptera with most of the structural pieces in place. Now, there's something special about this tub, Thomas. Tell us about it.
So, it looks like there is nothing for December. There is no December update. This is midway through January, so these guys are just getting further and further behind as far as I can see. What's this one? First fleet order for 101 vehicles. I think if you were to look at the timing they got that fleet order, it may have even been late 2022. But in either case, certainly not a December update. I don't believe there's anything more to find out at aptera.us if you had found out all you could on the website by the end of November. Well, I think that's it for me. Double trolling. I just want to keep the fanboys happy. Till next time, bye for now. Stay safe.